This guy, Goldberg. Brock Lesnar comes home, and half of this audience is going to chant the name of Goldberg. Bill Goldberg, this is all your fault.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special edition of Review-A Raw. It is John Pollock, and as Wei Ting has abandoned me, I have gone to the wheel yet again, and this is an exciting one, folks. Everyone talks about Cody Rhodes and his list and all his dream opponents out there when he left the WWE. Well, when Wei Ting was going to leave, I made my own list, and right at the top of it, of a guy I wanted to do a show with, who joins us tonight. He is Bartender Dave.
Hooray! Thanks for having me on, John. I really appreciate this.
This is very exciting for me, yeah. Dave, to finally be on a show with you. I've heard you many a time on What's Next, but you are breaking down barriers and coming over here to review a Raw.
Well, I will take any opportunity I can. I'm ready to talk a little NXT, although this episode went really long, and I don't know why Brock Lesnar was on it. We did Raw, didn't we? This was Raw. Okay, sorry about that.
I was going to say, do you realize the time you spent tonight was like the equivalent of like a month of NXT viewing, pretty much?
Yeah, when I saw the main event going on at 11:54, I was like, oh, I see a little bit of overrun coming.
Yeah, because we still haven't corrected that problem after all of these years. God forbid we fit this all into 180 minutes. Yeah, what an idea.
You think that would be an easy thing to do, like 3 hours. You can't just jam that in there, and you had a couple of matches that didn't even need to be on there, but we'll get to that.
Well, tell me a little bit about your typical viewing of Raw. Do you keep up with Raw and SmackDown each week? What is kind of your wrestling viewing diet each week?
Pretty much. I usually do Monday nights at the bar, but when given this opportunity, I booked the night off, and Paul was nice enough to take my shift. So I will watch Raw as it's on the bar, like we have it on the back TV. And then on the replay, I'm usually closing up the bar when the last half hour is on. Nobody's in the bar, so I turn it on the big TV and put on the sound. So I watch that. And SmackDown, I PVR. I like that. I watch the Talking Smack, of course, which is always really good. I like that one. And NXT, I never miss NXT.
You know, when we ended the Law last night, and Jay was teeing up that I'd have a surprise co-host, and my line at the end was, we'll bring some Jericho Hall. And I thought this was a nice subtle play for Bartender Dave. And then Jay immediately told me after the show, he said, man, there's going to be a lot of people thinking that Chris Jericho's going to be on the show reviewing with you. I said, well, that would be quite the get on my part, but it would be no Bartender Dave. Yeah, so Chris Jericho would not, he wouldn't, maybe wouldn't be on my list.
Well, I do apologize if I've let anybody down by not being Chris.
No.
But I'm almost as old as him, so we're getting pretty close.
All right. And still to come tonight, we're going to be doing a giveaway for some Talk is Jericho tickets in the city of Toronto. And I have come up with a Bartender Dave inspired contest.
Oh, my goodness.
So that is something to come later on. But let us begin with this, as always, mammoth edition of Raw from Minneapolis, Minnesota, which was a show that we all knew Brock Lesnar was going to be on. And how would he be received in Minneapolis, Minnesota? That was a question that I would say 99% of people did not ask because it was a foregone conclusion, but we'll find out who that 1% was. Chris Jericho came out to start the show, as Michael Cole explains that we were supposed to be starting off Raw with Enzo and Carl Anderson, but instead Chris Jericho is starting things off for us. So Jericho is in, and he mentions the triple threat tonight has been canceled. He has a very somber mood about him. There are boos when they announce the match has been canceled, but then they quickly pick themselves up by chanting Sparkle Crotch, and he revealed that someone has stolen the list of Jericho, and he is not leaving until this list is returned to him. And this ended up being a 90-minute search.
I have no idea how this Sparkle Crotch thing is getting over. That's I just don't get it. I don't understand it. But like you said, the 90 minutes of searching for this list and everybody thinking of what happened. But you all knew exactly what was going to happen, that it was Rikishi, and he did it for The Rock.
You know, those, I think it was the Pro Wrestling Tees Company that came out with the wrestling-inspired briefs.
Yes, yeah.
You know, there's a sparkle crotch one coming.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
The WWE should really get on that now because there are idiots that will buy that.
Oh, without a doubt. And I love the Pro.
Braden Herrington being one of them.
Oh, for sure.
So Owens then comes out, and Owens denies having the list himself, says he doesn't care about the list, and this upsets the audience with this reveal of his lack of interest in the state of affairs regarding the list. And Jericho's explaining how important it is. Stephanie comes out, and she is going to make sure that this damn list is returned. And Jericho's getting very annoyed at everyone until Seth comes out, and Seth has one hand behind his back, and Jericho accuses him of having the list, and he reveals that he has it. And the audience, they cheered at this discovery of the location of this list. And Rollins then starts revealing that Stephanie was put on the list and referred to as a stupid idiot on the list. And it also placed my former best friend Kevin Owens on the list to try and screw with Jericho and Owens. And then Rollins moves on, promotes Hell in a Cell, says he has experienced it while Owens has not, and he lists off the body parts of Kevin Owens that will never be the same after Sunday, getting as far as his back and his mouth, and dares Jericho to come and get his list as Jericho goes after him. This was our first segment, and this would be a, I will say, half-show-long storyline involving Chris Jericho seeking out the list backstage.
Yeah, definitely. And one of my favorite parts of the whole thing was right at the beginning when Jericho was shouting at him. He's like, "You got the list right there in your right hand," and he's clearly holding it in his left hand. But he goes to grab it with his left hand or to switch hands with the microphone. If you noticed that, I thought that was great. Just pointing out that he said it wrong. But I was wondering what you thought. Is a feud over a list better than the coffee-fearing Kane one?
Oh, that certainly is high up on the list of bad Chris Jericho storylines. I was just watching this, imagining this being like an awful storyline option you get in your career mode in next year's video game.
Yeah.
You're Chris Jericho, and you have to find your list backstage.
I see it coming.
Probably. After the break, we come back, and Stephanie approaches Seth backstage. She wants the list and doesn't care if her name is on it and wants to save tonight's main event because Chris is threatening to boycott it and says, "All of this is about you, Stephanie, and getting what you want and setting up this handicap situation with me tonight so that I'm weakened going into Hell in a Cell." And then he reveals that he left the list in the locker room. So a lot happened during this commercial break, Dave, where Seth was able to go backstage, plant this, and Jericho apparently is the slowest man in that locker room to not have caught Rollins in time when they left that segment before the commercial.
Well, Seth is a CrossFitter, so he really knows how to move fast.
He just jumped off walls and somehow ended up in a locker room, and all in record time.
Yeah.
We got our promised match, Dave. We got Enzo and Carl Anderson because they got bumped here to the next segment. Enzo comes out, and he goes to cut his promo, and it sounded like this sound system just exploded. You thought this legitimately had just killed off his mic. It was actually done very well. And Anderson and Gallows, you hear them over the speakers, announce that Sing Along has been canceled. And they come out and they say that they're about being mean and getting green. And they refer to a good brother in the production truck that took a payday ski to move some wires around and cut out Enzo's microphone, and that Enzo and Cass are not good brothers. So we've kind of seen, Dave, all these different versions of Anderson and Gallows, and it seems like they're trying to get these guys to how they've appeared on numerous podcasts, including their own, essentially being themselves, which is the first time I've seen these guys try and be themselves here out in front of a Raw audience.
Yeah, like I really like the Good Brothers or the club or whatever they're calling them now. I think, and Carl Anderson is a real standout, and I never really noticed how good he was until like I got the Fight Network, started watching his other stuff that would be on the New Japan, and he's a heck of a talker. And like, what was I going to say? Yeah,
You're doing great, Dave. You're fitting in very well here. You are taking expert notes, working in Fight Network mentions. You're on a roll.
Oh, hey, it was when my wife caved and let me get it. I was one of the happiest things. My PVR is blowing up like crazy right now, but it's getting a bit crazy. But where does Anderson come from? Like, other than New Japan, was he part of anything else?
Carl Anderson got his start out in the Midwest. He was in Cincinnati. He did some stuff in California, but it was really New Japan that he got his big break. I mean, he did, I think only a handful of matches with ROH years and years back, and it was New Japan where he came in and then started teaming with Giant Bernard, and then later on it was with part of the Bullet Club where he just, that was where he emerged. He really made his name all in Japan and not so much anything in the States.
Yeah, they got to start working on the booking on them, because it seems like they're losing everything, but they're always getting put into higher profile matches, and I don't understand that. Like, they got to give them some kind of strength. It just seems like they're always losing.
Yeah, and we'll get into that as well here. So as the mic is cut, Enzo instead just taps on his fist and does his whole spiel, yelling it, and the crowd sings along, and they were just so loud to compensate for the fact there was no microphone here. They continued it, and they just mimed it out with Cass taking the invisible mic, did the soft bit. I thought this was excellent.
Yeah, they did a really good job.
Like, this is something they can go back to, and especially on house shows, and just get the crowd yelling at the top of their lungs here. It was just, I thought it was actually a pretty smart way to do this promo and get the crowd even more into it. And I would say 2/3 of this show, you had a pretty solid crowd here in Minnesota.
Yeah, you could really see over the past couple of weeks too that they're putting a lot of emphasis on the mic tattoo on his fist, like in the pictures on the website and on the television. They'll show the stills. He's always got his fist up there, showing that he's got the mic. So I like how they're doing it, how they're working it into this the opener now.
So the casualty will be his vocal cords that he blows out, because they'll no longer give him a microphone. Yeah. He's going to have to shout for 10,000 people every night.
That's what you get, Enzo.
Enzo hit this wind-up overhand right and then got distracted by Gallows, and Anderson was able to hit a spine buster. They went through a commercial break. Anderson was in control, hit a running boot, and then Anderson went for a roll-up, and Cass and Gallows got onto opposite sides of the apron. Cass then nailed Anderson from the floor with a big boot. I was amazed that this man got his leg up this high and didn't tear anything.
Yeah, that was really impressive.
I had to go and rewind this. I was like, they said a big boot. How did he hit a big boot from the floor? But he did do it. And then Enzo covered him for the win. And the crowd was certainly into this. But to your point, Dave, it just seems like last week we had Cass destroy Anderson in a minute. Yeah. And this week it was Enzo getting the win. And granted, with the help of Cass. But, I mean, leaving you with very little build for this pay-per-view match on Sunday.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. One thing I did catch in the match, though, was that wind-up fist was No Way Jose's first finisher in his first match that he had in NXT.
Not anymore.
Yeah, I know, right?
He'll have to come up with something new now. Yeah. Then we had, this was a perplexing segment, Dave. Rusev did this taped promo, okay? And I want you to just assume I'm talking about anybody here. Don't even attach Rusev's name to this if you haven't seen this. Gotcha. He says that he's had trouble sleeping, but last night he slept like a baby because Roman Reigns' title reign is coming to an end. This Roman has done despicable things to him, his wife. Now it's time for him to do despicable things to Roman Reigns at Hell in a Cell. He says, you've disrespected my family, you stole my title, and the cell is only as dangerous as the opponent you're in there with. And he says he's not afraid of Hell in a Cell because he does not fear this man, Roman Reigns. He is going to do this for his family, for his country, and Roman will be carried out crushed. And I would say, Dave, this was the best babyface promo I heard on Monday night.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, he's like, hey, he's standing up for his family. He's standing up for what he believes in. And I'm kind of digging the mustacheless beard he's wearing right now.
I think Rusev is doing a fantastic job in this Roman Reigns feud, but I think he's in risk of turning himself. I don't know how this segment was laid out as it was because it felt like such a babyface promo for an opponent that you know is going to be struggling with this anyway, with this reaction on Sunday. And I just find Rusev, especially last week, he's just into that mode where he's so entertaining that it's very hard to dislike this guy for the audience.
Yeah, it's true. Like, and I just can't get it with the Roman Reigns, and I don't want to be a hater or jump on the bandwagon of people who don't like him, but it's just there's no connect with him. He always seems like he's just not being himself, and you can't really like somebody who doesn't show a little bit of personality that shows who they actually are. Like, that's what we like about people, is when they're being themselves. You can always tell it, but it's, I don't know, my wife loves Roman Reigns, thinks that he's absolutely gorgeous, but every time he talks, she's just like, no, shh, don't talk. It's just like,
and I think that's the biggest problem with Roman Reigns, is just, I think, that lack of authenticity a lot of people have. I think there was a lesson to learn with Bill Goldberg last week, who was somebody that, I mean, especially in his WWE run, I don't think realistically had that connection as well. And it was last week, you just let this guy be himself. And I think with Roman Reigns, I don't think many people have a problem with this guy. I mean, bell to bell, is this guy the best wrestler in the world? No, but he has more than adequate matches typically, especially in pay-per-view environments. He has good matches.
Oh, without a doubt.
I don't feel there's just that connection, because he, to me, is the epitome of this produced performer that so many of these guys are bogged down with, and they don't make that connection.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
So after that, the New Day comes out, and they note that they are facing one of the best athletes out there this Sunday in Cesaro and his partner Sheamus. And he says, shame on us for allowing Sheamus to come out to this ring because no one wants to see him. And they yell shame repeatedly, really forcing this audience to take this and run with it with a chant. And then Sheamus and Cesaro come out, and we have switched up their entrance. Instead of doing the back-to-back pose that they did last week, now Cesaro comes out first, and then Sheamus interrupts him with Cesaro looking annoyed to the side of Sheamus. And he just comes out doing his usual entrance. On the pre-show, they were arguing in the locker room, and both want to be tag champions, just not with one another. So that is our predicament for these two.
Yeah, it's kind of like the good cop, bad cop, buddy type thing they're trying to do with it, and I don't know if I like it or I don't like it. I'm still a little bit on the fence with it.
So we had a non-title match here: Kofi Kingston and Big E against Cesaro and Sheamus. And Michael Cole notes that they are 50 days away from tying Demolition's record coming up in December. Big E and Kingston took turns stomping on Sheamus in their corner, and then Sheamus is annoyed on the floor with Cesaro. They come back after the commercial break, and Cesaro and Sheamus are now in control with Kofi in the corner, and they just tag back and forth with strikes to Kofi in between. And they push it that if you could get these two on the same page, they're a tremendous team together.
Is that the dueling uppercut tag spot that you're talking about there?
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. I thought that was really well done.
And they're just trying to one-up one another,
yeah.
And they were just doing constant tags and upping one another. Big E eventually got tagged in. He hit 3 belly-to-belly suplexes on Sheamus. Cesaro countered a guillotine into this vertical suplex on Kofi, got a 2 count from that, and the Cesaro swing got countered into a small package. Cesaro then tried another one, this time to Big E, and Kingston leapt off the top with this huge crossbody. Big E then clotheslined Sheamus to the floor as Kingston got pressed over the top by Big E to the floor and then landed into a Cesaro uppercut. Big E turns around, hit with a brogue kick, and Sheamus pins him. I thought the finishing sequence was really strong, and this was a logical finish with the title match on Sunday, and you at least have the challengers going in with some steam here. I thought this match turned out very well by the end.
Yeah, it was a quick finish. The final segment was done really quick and really well, really crisp and clean. But I kind of, halfway through the match, I just started drifting off because it was getting a little bit long. And I don't understand the kinesio tape. Can you explain that to me? Is it an actual medical thing that they're using? Because it looks like I could do the same thing with duct tape in my basement.
There's definitely a science to it. A friend of Robin Black at the Fight Network, he once really messed up his shoulder, and it was right before a fight, and he had to get this done. And I don't know the exact science of what it is doing, but it definitely is something that athletes use, and it is legit. But it does seem like something that you see all over WWE that they use, whether it's for a necessary one in the case of Cesaro, who did have the shoulder injury, or tonight with Bayley, where it felt much more storyline.
Yeah, but it also looks like I wonder if they're getting a kickback or anything, or if it's like money for that, showing it off, because it doesn't seem to be helping Cesaro's shoulder at all.
For some guys, it's just something you permanently need that they utilize. I mean, I'm sure his shoulder is after the damage he had and the surgery he needed. It may be something where you just need. If you remember, Christopher Daniels had that for quite a while, where he had almost like this bone popping up of his shoulder because he landed badly.
Oh, right.
And he had that tape for. I want to say years. He almost had that as well. So it might just be something where it's just holding that shoulder and something he needs for now.
It's like an Iron Mike Sharp armband.
That's it. Yeah. It's just not going to disappear. They recap the Goldberg segment, and then Chris Jericho's in the locker room searching for the list, and the Shining Stars are there with brochures for Puerto Rico. Jericho notes, "I hate Puerto Rico." Titus is also there, as is Jinder Mahal, who tells the irate Chris Jericho to find his inner peace and goes through a breathing exercise. And as Jericho breathes in, he says, "Stupid idiot," along with the breathing technique, and he just storms off. Maybe the best use of Jinder Mahal since he's been brought back.
I didn't even notice he was there.
It was him. You might need a name tag for some. Dana Brooke and Bayley, they were set to have a wrestling match, but Dana got on the microphone and scoffs at the idea that last week was somehow this upset over Bayley, stating that their rematch is going to be an arm wrestling contest instead. And look at that. They've got an arm wrestling table on hand for Dana's idea. Bayley here has her right shoulder all taped up and therefore is disadvantaged here in this arm wrestling contest. The crowd starts to chant, "This is stupid," at this arm wrestling contest. And Dana beats her almost immediately. The fans boo this. Then they go to do it again, this time Bayley using her left arm. And the crowd decided, well, if Bayley's going to switch arms, we're going to switch chants. And this is where they moved on to boring, as Bayley is then on the verge of winning, and Dana attacks her and runs into a Bayley to belly. Presumably, Dave, this match will be added to Hell in a Cell on Sunday, but that was not stated outright on the show.
Yeah, I've as the listeners to What's Next know that I've never been a Bayley fan. I don't know what it is about her. I'm not a big fan of her at all. Like she does really good work, but just doesn't connect with me for some reason. But I guess it's that I'm not a 14-year-old girl I shouldn't say that kind of stuff. You know what I mean.
Well, she's someone that certainly, I mean, she was brought up to the main roster, and she feels like the odd woman out at this point on the main roster. I mean, this Dana Brooke feud is, to me, it's a holdover, but I think Bayley, she's just in a role where I see a lot of people, especially on Raw, where they're just in this weird middle of the pack with nothing that they can really sink their teeth into. It's just kind of having a presence on the show for the sake of having a presence. And that's where Bayley is for me, at least at the moment.
And in NXT, they did such a good job of taking their time and building this character and making her the real underdog. And at least they had that going. It's like they almost expected the main roster viewership to know that story going in, and they didn't take the time to. They just threw her in there, and there's been no connect yet. They've got to work on that, in my opinion, anyway.
I did not keep track of the amount of Chris Jericho segments that were on this show, but they had to be approaching double digits. We go backstage, and he runs into Stephanie. He still has not found his list. And Stephanie tells him to get focused on tonight's main event, regardless of whether he finds this damn list or not. Jericho says, "No list, then no match. And not tonight, not any night." And Stephanie says, "Well, if you're refusing to do what your employer has said," as Jericho just said, "Excuse me, independent contractor." And then Stephanie threatens to suspend Chris Jericho if he does not participate in tonight's three-way main event. So getting very hostile here between Jericho and Stephanie over this list.
Did you find that Stephanie looked like she might be a little pregnant?
I wasn't observing, and if you are inaccurate, Dave, you're going to upset somebody.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
Curtis Axel in the ring with a microphone. I was worried this could be offensive here, But what we got was Curtis Axel, for the first time ever, getting a chance to cut a real promo in a WWE ring.
He didn't do too bad.
No, I didn't think he did either. And he was wearing a Skull Axel Skull shirt, which apparently is a Minnesota Vikings chant, and says that after last week, he has to go back to his roots. And they run deep in Minnesota. And he carries the legacy of his grandfather, Larry the Axe Hennig, and his father, Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig. And Dallas then attacked everything that he stands for last week, and he is not going to let that happen in his hometown of Minneapolis. And it ended with a skull chant, and I thought this was quite the promo from one Curtis Axel.
Yeah, I like the use of the skull chant, and it actually kind of got over too. And I researched it a bit, and it means to drink from your enemy's skulls, to get together and fight together, to drink from your enemy's skulls. So it's like, that's something different.
Wow, that could have been, he should have explained that for all of us outside of Minnesota on Monday. So Bo Dallas comes out, and Axel decks him and attacks him with punches and stomps. And Dallas is going for that finish he's been using now, the roll of the dice. And instead, Axel stops it and hits the perfect plex, only getting a 2 count. Sacrilege if you were a fan of Mr. Perfect in the 80s.
Completely.
And then Dallas puts his head under the ring skirt and just attacks Axel. There's a rear chinlock spot. Axel gets out, fights back, and he just does a series of Mr. Perfect spots. The old neck snap over top, and then a knee lift for a 2 count. Dallas then stops another knee lift in the ropes and rolls up Axel in 258. It could not be a hometown favorite without him losing in his hometown, as Bo Dallas gets the win. But I've got to say, Dave, if these are your 2 outcast members and you're giving one of them a push, to me, one of them shined over the other tonight, but he lost.
Oh, without a doubt. And I wrote down here, that sucked. Like, you get something going. Like, Curtis Axel was actually getting over with the crowd. They were chanting for him, and what do? You just squash him in, what did you say, 250? Like, come on, man. You got to give him a bit more than that.
Like, to me, it's just, like, I don't see a whole lot in Bo Dallas. I don't know what they necessarily see either as the end result here, but I do know on this night, had they done Curtis Axel with that promo, and instead of just a kick-out spot, he won with the perfect plex, I think you would have at least had some momentary momentum for a guy that's largely been a dead character since he's shown up on TV.
Oh, without a doubt. I totally agree with you on that one.
Rich Swann video package aired. He would be an interesting figure on tonight's show. And then, who do we go back to? Chris Jericho. He's searching for the list, everyone, and we're getting closer.
Didn't see it coming.
Yes. A PA in the back comes up to him and says he saw somebody with the list. And Jericho is elated at this news. He kisses the man on the head, and he walks around the corner, and the man holding the list is Braun Strowman. And he asks for the list back. And Braun says, "Say please." So he says please. And Braun informs him that I don't see Sami Zayn's name on this. And just like that, hands it back to Jericho. And the people you could hear as they were mic'd here, they were very happy to see this resolved. Jericho yelled that Zayn's name was on page 4. And then as Braun leaves, he puts Braun on the list. I've got to say, Dave, for something that they put a lot of time into on Monday night, I don't know what this payoff was necessary. If this payoff was at the level of what I anticipated it would be.
Well, he did say please.
That's true. I guess we got that out of things.
And I'm teaching my boys that manners get you everywhere.
Well, that was where we are after 8 segments of Jericho searching for this damn list. I thought it's like they've got to have something really clever with the discovery of this list. But no, it was just Braun had it and he gave it to Jericho. So more of Jericho to come on this show. Then we had a Roman Reigns taped promo. Interesting, Dave, that this was our only time we saw Roman Reigns. He was never in front of the live crowd, no match, just this one promo. And same for Rusev on this go-home show. It was, I hope.
That's one of the cell matches. You think that they'd have, well, I guess they know what they're doing, or hope they do.
I guess they thought less was more with these two. He says that Rusev doesn't know what it's like to be in Hell in a Cell or to win one. He says that he has not made this personal, but he's going to. It's not about wedding celebrations or family albums. It's about the United States title, and he takes that very seriously. and ends it by stating, "See you in hell." And that was all. It was a minute and a half of Roman Reigns on Monday night.
Yeah, but he was still talking.
He was talking, yes, and reciting. Goldust and R-Truth took on the Shining Stars next, and Corey Graves had a Puerto Rico brochure that the Shining Stars had given him because he had forgotten his wife's birthday over the weekend and was going to make it up with a trip to Puerto Rico. And we have Mark Henry in the corner of Goldust and R-Truth and Titus O'Neil in the corner of the Shining Stars. Primo, right in front of Mark Henry, hit his old chocolate slide to Goldust, and then Epico followed up with strikes. Epico ran into a Goldust power slam, and then R-Truth landed on the floor after Titus pulled down the rope. Mark Henry confronts Titus, and then as he's backing up, he knocks the ropes, causing Primo to fall off the turnbuckle. Henry then throws Titus into the steel steps, and there's a double flapjack by Truth and Goldust as they pin Primo in 4 minutes.
No one of the 6 in this match are going anywhere.
Including to the pay-per-view on Sunday, I would assume.
Yeah, well, they probably won't be in any of those matches.
That will be a case of time, and I don't know. With 3 cell matches, I don't know if these 6 will be on call.
But just imagine being in that arena tonight, because before they went to commercial, they had R-Truth doing his song, and when they came back from commercial, he was still doing his song.
Can you imagine?
Oh my God, that was about 3.5 minutes of commercials too. But well, my oldest son really likes R-Truth, so what can I say?
Well, I guess he has his audience.
Yes.
That's the key. Then we had the big contract signing. They had been promoting this all show long involving Charlotte and Sasha Banks. And Mick Foley is in the ring and says that you never know when a moment will become immortalized and superstars are catapulted to become legends. And this Sunday is no ordinary event. It's Hell in a Cell. Charlotte comes out first. She's going to be on ESPN this Wednesday. And Sasha follows. And Foley talks to both of them before they sign the contract, stating that they have broken the glass ceiling. They have shown true athleticism and greatness knows no gender. And some would say Hell in a Cell is too barbaric for women to compete in. And this elicited boos from the very progressive Minneapolis audience, and says it's a new era where women can accomplish anything and there's no turning back after they sign this contract. And Charlotte did a promo stating she's never been more ready, and Charlotte says the title is going to come back to the Queen. And as they're awaiting Foley to hand them the contract, he clutches the contract close to him. And it was time for a big Mick Foley Hell in a Cell promo. Mm-hmm. He says that the two of them don't know, that they don't realize what they're getting themselves into. And Sasha interrupts saying, "I have studied all the Hell in a Cell matches on the WWE Network." And Foley says, "It's not just steel. It's got no soul or heart or conscience. The structure is a separate opponent that they're going to have to face." And then Charlotte says how Sasha's an entitled second-rate talent who holds the title, and she's the only reason the title means anything. Sasha says there's no queen in the WWE, but there is a boss, and she will go down as the greatest women's champion ever, and she realizes that she may end up broken. And she said this twice for effect, Dave. I thought there was going to be a giant delete chant immediately after she said broken, but there was not, as they were intent here on the verbiage. And Charlotte says she's lost count at how many times Sasha's been hurt this year. And this is when Foley cut in and says that the future they could have is represented by him. He says he's a shell of his former self. People look at him and have pity on him. With every step he takes, he's in pain. It doesn't matter how much weight he loses or exercises he does. It doesn't replace the fact that he has no hip socket. It's bone on bone. His spine is curved, and he suffers from the decisions he made inside the Hell in a Cell. And if they look at him, they are looking at their futures.
Everybody was screaming way too much during this.
There was certainly this element of, yeah, I totally know what you mean.
Like they got to hug it out. Like, it's too bad they're not still in Colorado, because they could have been in better moods, maybe.
Yeah, I thought more so for Charlotte and Sasha, they were very much in that mode. It's the Dolph Ziggler mode, I call it, where it's like, okay, we are trying to do a dramatic promo. Foley was kind of over the top at the beginning, but I thought when he got into all his injuries and the reality, like the legit injuries that he suffered as a result of this, I thought it got really good here.
Yeah.
And that's when the crowd was chanting for him. And he goes over a story of when he met Charlotte in 91 and mentions her brother, tells Sasha that his children had a signed photo from Eddie Guerrero, and then they gave it to Sasha as a gift, knowing how much of an influence he was on her, and says that he was a jaded and cynical wrestling fan, but then the women renewed his love for professional wrestling. It ends with the two women signing the contract. Charlotte says, "See you in Boston," and Sasha says, "Well, I'll see you in hell," which, when I read that out, it sounds like a real heel line from Sasha on her hometown, but it was...
yeah, I didn't even catch that. I grew up there. I know what it's like.
What'd you think of this segment overall?
I thought it was all right. Like, I didn't mind it at all, but I felt that it was that Mick kind of flip-flopped on it. At the beginning, he's like, last week he's talking about how good it's going to be. Like, you guys deserve to be there, blah, blah, blah. And then this week he started out that way. And then he's like, stop. No, you don't know what you're getting into. This is terrible. This is horrible. Look what it did to me, blah, blah. You better be ready. But I guess he's kind of like prepping him to get into it. But I just thought it was, I thought it was good. The ending was better, but I didn't know what Mick Foley was trying to do with his character. It just seemed like he was flip-flopping a bit on, in my opinion, anyway.
No, it's a really good point from the way Mick Foley, treated this a few weeks ago. Like, it's this great honor for the women. And I think for Mick Foley, I mean, if he's going to be promoting Hell in a Cell, I mean, he should be the absolute extreme example of the outcome of this horrendous match that they promote, the Hell in a Cell match. I mean, he's the one most associated with it, and he should be reserved for these kinds of promos. And yeah, that wasn't the case when they introduced this a few weeks ago for the women. Then we had a Emelina video, and she was not on the show. TJ Perkins was on commentary for the next match involving Brian Kendrick and Rich Swann. And this was just this was something else.
Can I stop for just a quick second, getting back to the Emelina? Do you feel that they're kind of taking a step back from the women's Divas Revolution by redoing her as like your typical 90s diva?
I want to see what they do when they actually bring her back, but there's certainly I mean, I see it very much almost like she's going to be Raw's Eva Marie to some degree.
Because she's so good in the ring. Like, I really like watching her wrestle. She's really good at what she does. So I was really digging her character with the sunglasses and the dark lipstick and the half gloves or whatever. I thought she was doing really well. And then now they've repackaged her, and
yeah, well, these vignettes, it's everything that they have the women come out, and I mean, especially if you watch that WWE Network documentary, it was essentially, that's the complete old version of the women that we have gotten away from, and that's what's being utilized now. Which
I mean, see what they could be doing, like doing it like a heel type maneuver, because like you could have put Sable in those shots, and it would have been the same thing.
Maybe that's going to be Emelina is coming back to turn back the clock. That's going to be it. We're going to have her doing like bra and panties matches.
Oh. I'm going to keep my mouth shut. I'm a happily married man.
So TJ Perkins is on commentary, and Brian Kendrick took on Rich Swann, and Swann did this arm drag and then drop kick, sending Kendrick to the floor, and then this great looking flip dive off the second turnbuckle, as that was our commercial break time. Kendrick is in control when they return. I feel it's almost like this. It's like guaranteed, Dave, when you have the guy that's in control, we go to commercial break, without fail, they have screwed up something during the commercial break, and now the other guy is back in control. It happens every single commercial break.
I absolutely agree with you every time.
When you watch this much WWE, you notice these crazy little things.
I just want to say Rich Swann for Universal Champ.
Well, Rich Swann looked pretty good in this match. He did his leap off the mat for a Hurricane Rana, and then the sliced bread gets blocked. Swann went for a Tiger Driver into a jackknife cover for a 2 count. This really did feel like a showcase for Rich Swann.
Yeah, his facial expressions are just fantastic.
So Swann then he gets dropped off the shoulders of Kendrick, and Swann recovers and out of nowhere hits this magistral cradle and pins Brian Kendrick for the upset, and they're pushing that maybe Perkins has gotten into Kendrick's head. And for those of you not keeping score, Brian Kendrick is the one that is challenging for the Cruiserweight title on Sunday. If that didn't make sense, wait till our follow-up segment later. And I was really scratching my head and wonder if a Russo, Vince is on the payroll here, because this was just some perplexing stuff.
Yeah, and I also have a vision of a new TJ Perkins T-shirt coming out that says "Adapt or Die," because he said that about 4 or 5 times during that whole match.
What was the old Evolution one? Wasn't it Adapt or Perish? Was that their little?
Oh, that's
deal
right. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's his now.
There you go.
He's getting a shirt with just like some video game.
Yeah, the 38-bit or whatever you call it, the type.
I'm saying just with lines like game over, game over is probably. He's not getting that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he used one tonight. Hit reset or something.
Oh God,
that was in the upcoming. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
that's in our big segment coming up.
But Swan's victory caught me completely off guard. I did not see that coming. And when the match was announced,
it made no sense, Dave, because you were thinking logically here. That
like when Swan came out, I was like, oh, they're beating him again. Come on, he's so good. And then to see this, I was like, oh, all right, awesome.
At the very least, I thought at the end of this, okay, the commentators, they were definitely putting over Swan. Maybe this somehow becomes a 3-way for the pay-per-view. But nope, not even that, at least as of now. So then Tom Phillips interviews Kevin Owens backstage. And he says he's on the same page with Jericho. They're going to break Seth Rollins, and then Rollins is going to hobble into Hell in a Cell. He says that he's never been in a Hell in a Cell, but that doesn't mean Rollins has an advantage. He's been waiting 20 years since watching the first Hell in a Cell and wants to be part of one. He says it's exciting, and that's why the women begged to be in a cell match. But after this Sunday, no kids are going to be growing up wishing that they could be in one of these cell matches when they see what he does to Seth Rollins. He's going to leave a permanent scar on Rollins and anyone watching. This is going to be like a Walking Dead recreation from Sunday without giving any spoilers to people. He says that there is nothing he won't do to keep this title. They're both going to hell, and he's the only one coming back. I thought this was a pretty good promo, and I really haven't been feeling this Owens-Rollins match for Sunday. I feel that Rollins is such a back burner element to this real program with Owens and Jericho, and you almost forget that this singles match is happening on Sunday. I mean, it's there, but I was glad that this promo occurred and that this wasn't just Owens playing comedy off of Tom Phillips, which can be very easy for him to do, and instead it was a serious promo.
Yeah, he didn't even call him Todd once.
No, it was just like this was a serious promo. This program needed it. It is the last show before Hell in a Cell, so I was glad with this direction as opposed to kind of the usual playing off of Tom Phillips that he does. I mean, you can do that any week with Tom Phillips.
Yeah, he did a really good job, and I'm looking forward to watching the match.
Braun Strowman and Sami Zayn was next.
I had such high hopes for Sami Zayn. Like, do you think he can still make something out of this run, or can he be...
No, I definitely don't write him off, but it's certainly... Like, he serves zero purpose at this moment.
He's so good, too. Like, so good.
Like, I would say he's in the same role as Bayley, but I feel they have more in Bayley than they do with Sami Zayn at the moment. Yeah. I mean, this is just like...
He takes loss after loss after loss.
And probably another one when they eventually do this match with Braun. So Braun comes out and just putting Sami Zayn here on a pedestal says, I wanted better competition than this.
Way to go.
It's like, so this guy who didn't even bat an eyelash over James Ellsworth is here questioning the matchmaking of Sami Zayn. So Zayn slaps him. And then Braun chases him around the ring. Zayn lands a pair of boots off the apron and then goes for a pescado and gets caught by Braun, and he gets tossed into the barricade, and Braun just walks off and leaves.
Is the abominable Strowman, is that a new one, or have they been using that, or is that just a brand new Coreyism? Because I thought that was great.
Corey used that last week, I think, for the first time.
So good. Did the bell even ring in this match?
No, it never started.
All right.
So it's keeping this one fresh, Dave. So Zayn is then in the ring and is signaling for Braun to come back. But Braun just looks, weighs his options, says, nah, I'm going to take off.
I'm good.
And that's ended. So do you expect this on Sunday, or do you feel they'll delay this?
If I could see them putting it on the opener show.
Oh, boy.
I bet you they do it. Yeah. Yeah,
that could be.
It'll be the new Baron Corbin Ziggler thing. They'll do it like on the opener for the next 3 pay-per-views.
I mean, you go back to that draft, and on that same show, do you remember that very bizarre segment where just for no reason, Kane chokeslams Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, and I was very concerned about that. Yeah. And then they had their blow-away battleground match, and it was weird that they were on the same show, but it's like, look, like Owens, they clearly, he was in this stupid Kane segment, but really no one remembers that. But to me, it was like Sami Zayn really peaked with the Owens match. They had this great match, and since then it's been nothing.
Nothing. Yeah, they just don't have anything for him. It's sad because he's so versatile. He's such a great wrestler, and like he's a good looking guy too. Like he could get over that way too. He's got a great aura about him, and his merchandise is good. So
that's what I really hope, that they have some of these stakes involved at Survivor Series where it can be, some people are up for grabs. You're able to pick something where you could reshuffle the deck a little and just move like 2 or 3 key people, and Zayn would be one of them, getting him off of this show because he has no role on this show.
None
and
whatsoever.
it's not like I even look at a ton of options either for him on Raw. I just think there's a much better variety for him on SmackDown.
Oh, yeah.
I think he'd be way more beneficial there.
I would love to see him and AJ have a match on SmackDown. That'd be great.
All he would need is one segment on Talking Smack, and I think he'd be revitalized on that show.
Oh, for sure.
So after that, then we go to this.
I know what you're going to.
Fuck. Brian Kendrick walks up to TJ Perkins in the locker room. First of all, his chest was just a mess from these chops. Just looked awful. And this is where Perkins gives the natural line that, Dave, I'm sure you and I have used on a countless basis, where he's trying to have a real conversation about these 2 friends that are no longer as close. And Perkins says, "You think you can just hit reset on everything you've done?" The force feeding of these video game terms is the thing I hate the most about this Perkins character. It's just too much.
I used that line at the bar last night twice.
Of course. Kendrick says that the clock is ticking for him, and Perkins amazingly did not use a health meter reference. And Kendrick says that Perkins is young, he can win the title back anytime. But if Kendrick loses on Sunday, that's it. And then he can't provide for his family. Perkins says, "Maybe if you were the old Kendrick, but not now. I can't help this Kendrick." He says, "You just have to go out there and you have to win." And he says, "Well, trying just isn't enough anymore. I need you to let me win on Sunday."
Oh, good God.
It's like, what the hell is this? And Perkins gave him the same look that I did, and he just took his title and he walked off.
Yep.
So the cliffhanger going into Sunday is that Brian Kendrick is just so past his prime. He can't beat Rich Swann, the setup guy. He definitely can't beat Perkins. So the only drama to a Kendrick win is if Perkins loses the fake wrestling match on Sunday.
Yeah.
This, October the 24th, Dave, was the 17-year anniversary of Vince Russo's first WCW pay-per-view, and this was quite the tribute to it, in my opinion.
Oh, amen. So he's past his prime at, what is he, 36, 38, something like that?
I think 38. That sounds right.
And Goldberg's 49.
This is 37 years old is one Brian Kendrick, who is, what a weird build-up to look at the Cruiserweight Classic. That was only like 6 weeks ago, Dave. And this is our storyline. Please lose to me on Sunday.
After they fought like hell for everything back in the Cruiserweight Classic, now he's just like, yeah, you know what, I can't do this. And is this part of his contract that if he loses this match, he's done? He can't work anymore? Like
that was never mentioned. Like that was not even like
just because you're not the champion, you're still going to collect a paycheck, man.
It's just, I don't know. Is this whole match going to be built around spots of like, wait a minute, is Perkins cooperating here? Is he not defending properly? Yeah. Like, what is this? How's this match even going to be structured on Sunday? This was a very strange segment. I thought would be the strangest of the night, but then we had something from out of this world. Brock Lesnar comes out with Paul Heyman, and what a stunning reaction! The crowd goes nuts as he comes out. And earlier in the night, Dave, there was some fan in Minneapolis who tweets me, and I guess this was during the Superstars tapings, and he said, expect expect a big babyface reaction for Brock Lesnar. They're already chanting Suplex City during Superstars. And I mean, I'm being a bit of a wise ass in my head where I was like, well, what do you expect in Minneapolis? Yeah. Unfortunately, this tweet was not sent to the WWE because they must have been the only ones who were anticipating a different reaction for Brock Lesnar.
Oh my God.
I don't know what this was.
No, Paul tried so hard to get them to chant Goldberg, and it was hilarious. I was really hoping for an Ellsworth chant going in, and there was just a tiny little one right at the beginning. You heard a few guys going, Ellsworth, and I was just like, that's great.
Like, I mean, as great as that Bill Goldberg segment got over last week, I mean, there was no carryover to this audience. No. I mean, it's Minneapolis. Brock's there live, and Goldberg is nowhere near there. So I can't imagine they were stunned by this.
No, how could you expect them to cheer him or not cheer him? Like, it's a given. Like, and they should have gone with it. Like last week, Goldberg, everybody cheers for him. It gets all that. They should have went with it here. Everybody cheers for Brock. So they both look strong, both look big baby faces instead of the two heels that met the last time.
So Heyman starts off his promo, and he doesn't even want to say Goldberg's name. He has this disgusted look on his face, and he finally says it, and the fans instantly boo Goldberg's name. They chant Suplex City, and then Heyman calls out this non-existent Goldberg fan in the crowd, and he says that the Goldberg chants are starting to piss Lesnar off. Unfortunately, there were no Goldberg chants. None. He says Goldberg is like Humpty Dumpty, and no chance will put him back together. Like, he was just essentially on his knees praying that this audience would just go along and chant Goldberg, and they were having none of it here.
I laughed out loud when Heyman called him Super Dad. I thought that was fantastic.
He called him Super Dad, yes. Michael Cole does note we are in the hometown of Brock Lesnar, Minneapolis, and Heyman goes back to admonishing the non-existent Goldberg chants. This was just so weird in that, like, I would expect this over someone that maybe had less experience in front of a live audience, but it just, I mean, Heyman was really struggling here, and you don't often see him struggle like this. So Brock Lesnar, our South Dakota born, but Minneapolis adopted Brock Lesnar, was just being treated like God here by these people. And Heyman just continues. It's like he was bound and determined to cut this promo and said, if we continue with these Goldberg chants, Lesnar is going to take matters into his own hands. This prompted louder Suplex City chants. The look on Brock's face was so awesome. Like, he knew this was a mess.
And then the Goldberg sucks.
Oh. Heyman starts yelling that everyone's chanting for Goldberg. It was like so bizarre how, like, this sounded like a lunatic out there. And yeah, they respond to this accusation of Goldberg chants by making it pretty damn clear Goldberg sucks. And then Brock's music just plays.
Like they said,
and Heyman just throws this mic away like it's garbage, and they leave. And this, like, I can't recall a Paul Heyman segment that bombed so badly as this one did. This was a Brock Lesnar date used up.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know, Dave, like, how could they have not anticipated Brock? I mean, at least like knowing going in, we're going to have to work to turn this crowd. Yeah. Instead, it was like this given that they were all going to chant Goldberg, and Heyman wasn't going to have to do anything to turn them. I was so perplexed by this, just given who was delivering this and what you had to have anticipated in Minneapolis. Like, it was the reason he was on this show.
Yeah, I got the feeling that he was told, this is what you have to do and you can't do anything else. And when I was watching his facial expressions, especially near the end when he drops the mic and walks out, it seems like he was thinking in his head, I told you what was going to happen. I can't believe you still made me do this. Because I don't think you can blame Heyman for not getting it over, because it was impossible, and I think he knew it was impossible.
One person brought up the fact that an easy way to have turned this crowd would have been to state that that Brock Lesnar is now Canadian, being that he lives in Saskatchewan.
Oh, yeah.
And while that might have worked for the moment to try and heal them, that would have paid. That would have been a bigger problem come Survivor Series if you're promoting the Lesnar as Canadian on TV. And I don't think that they want a negative Goldberg reaction at Survivor Series. But this reaction for Goldberg and Lesnar at Survivor Series, I think, is going to be one of the most interesting parts of this match next month, and how the crowd reacts. Because, last week they loved Goldberg. This week they hated him. But it didn't surprise me tonight because he wasn't there, and this was Lesnar's town. But, man, I can't recall a Heyman segment like this.
Yeah, for sure.
At least in his WWE time.
Yeah, and listening to the shows this week, you see a lot of the callers asking about how Goldberg's going to be. Is he going to be cheered or booed and that? And I often thought that no matter what, he's going to get cheered. But now I don't know, and I'm really interested to see how they react.
I'm very concerned about whatever they do with Goldberg next week on this Halloween show.
And they announced that, yeah.
I mean, if it's this company that booked this segment, I don't know what's going to happen. I just thought that segment was so great last week. I don't think you can top it, and I don't know what they're going to do next week.
Yeah, they should just leave it alone. Don't do anything. Just leave it alone. Don't have him on it.
So a very strange segment. Then we went to Owens with Jericho backstage, and he is telling Owens he was never on the list. It was a lie by Rollins. They are best friends, and Jericho says no matter what happens tonight, they'll still be best friends. And as Owens is getting ready, Jericho walks off, and Owens tries to peek to see if he's on the list. So still keeping those subtle teases there for whenever this Dave, if you're looking at this, ultimately this has to get to a match. Is Survivor Series too early for Owens and Jericho? Do you think that this has legs beyond next month, that these two can keep this feud going and just keep the subtle teases there until you eventually break them off?
Oh, what I think that they're not going to have a match for Survivor Series. What I think they're going to do is use the Monday Night Raw here in Canada to have the breakup happen.
Okay.
Yeah, because then you'll have the breakup happen and then start building to another match. Or to a match towards them. That's what I think. Just to have some kind of you'll still have the beauty that is Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens together on the pay-per-view, but then have something happen during the match that he costs something, they're supposed to both be in the Survivor Series match, right? Or is it
tentatively? I mean, that's what was thrown out last week, but we'll see how they assemble those teams.
Yeah, maybe one of them costs it by mistake, and then the next night they do something. But it's all just fantasy booking. I really don't know how to call this one.
They plugged that next week will be a Halloween-themed edition of Raw, which I'm not going to lie, I'm kind of looking forward to.
Does that mean that we have to have a food fight? Oh, no, that's Thanksgiving, right?
That's in a couple of weeks.
Oh, okay.
For American Thanksgiving.
Right.
I just hope that Bill Goldberg is not dressed up as Goldust with a wig next week.
Oh, my God, remember that.
I can't forget it. I don't want Bill Goldberg anywhere near this show next week. I don't wish for anyone to get ill, but if ever there was a time to get the flu, it might be this Sunday. Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, and Chris Jericho was our main event, non-title match, and they went a lengthy amount of time. I don't think this was so much an indictment on the match, Dave. I think that the prior segment just totally took this audience out of it because they just seemed very tuned out of this match, no matter what these guys did. I mean, it was a fine match as you're watching it, but the crowd was just, to me, they just were not invested in any of this.
Yeah, they were really, really quiet for the whole thing. And I thought the wrestling was a little bit weak, too. It looked like they were being a little bit soft on each other.
Well, Rollins started off with a blockbuster to Jericho and then tossed Owens to the floor. He was trying to get Jericho and Owens to go at it, but it was those two working together throughout. Numerous pedigree attempts with Jericho saving, Owens saving. Jericho went for a lion salt and landed on the knees of Rollins, and then they're celebrating with Rollins down on the ground. They're double teaming him, and they sent Owens to the floor, and then Rollins is fighting back here, drops Jericho with a kick and hit a suicide dive, missed a frog splash to Jericho, and then there was a code breaker by Jericho, and this was when it really hit you because he hit the code breaker, which is a fairly protected finish for Jericho. Rollins kicks out, and there was no reaction to this kick out, just none. And they continue to double team him on the turnbuckle, and then Rollins throws both off the turnbuckle and pins both of them. And so Rollins gets the victory, and then they're attacking Rollins on the floor afterwards. He's sent into the steps. Owens is posing on the ramp, and then Rollins knocks the officials away. He keeps fighting with Owens. They fight around ringside, and it builds up to the spot where Owens lifts up Rollins and power bombs him on the edge of the apron, which led to the best line of the night from Michael Cole. He's power bombed onto the edge of the apron, and Michael Cole yells, "That has cost superstars weeks of their career." Weeks,
I tell you.
maybe we could have just made that not put any kind of time limit on the recovery process here. Yeah. And I mean, the idea here that the announcers hit over your head was that there's no way Rollins will be 100% on Sunday, and Graves says that the Kevin Owens show has been renewed for a few more seasons.
Yeah, the powerbomb in the apron still looks really, really good, and I kind of got the feeling that Bret Hart was kind of smiling when he saw that.
He's apologized now.
Oh, okay.
So that was Raw. What a weird show. Yeah,
brought to you
what a strange show. Yeah. I didn't think a great go-home show for Sunday's show. I thought they certainly had moments for it. I think the 3 cell matches, they did what you needed to do, but I didn't think it was at the end of the show where this was some glowing show as a result of it. And that Heyman segment was just so strange. And the Kendrick booking with Perkins was just, I mean, those two were just, to me, the real head scratchers on this show. But what did you think overall?
It was all right. Like nothing, like you said, nothing spectacular. I kind of want to see what they do with the Kendrick TJ Perkins match or storyline. But overall, you know, it was really neat to see the Lesnar reaction. I thought that was my favorite part of the show.
It's just so strange. It's like the show just fell off the rails during that 5 minutes. Let us look here. Hell in a Cell, we've got, this is what's been announced so far. We got 6 matches with the 3 cell matches, Owens against Rollins, Sasha against Charlotte, Roman Reigns against Rusev for the U.S. title, and then we have TJ Perkins versus Brian Kendrick, The New Day against Cesaro and Sheamus for the tag titles, and then Enzo and Cass against Gallows and Anderson. Do you expect, Dave, the women to go on last Sunday? And what match would you put on last?
Yeah, I do that one last. Just because it's the first thing. But like you said, I think it was yesterday, you guys were saying that with only 6 days of a build, it's not worth it. But
I feel they're going to do it. I think they are going to put it on last. Whether that's, I mean, it's something you certainly could have promoted ahead of time.
Oh, without a doubt.
Wasn't mentioned tonight or anything, but I do feel it's going to go on last Sunday.
Yeah.
So there you have it. That was Raw from Monday night, and we are now going to head on over to the Law message board. Are you going to stick around here for some feedback, Dave?
I would love to. Everybody's asleep, so no one's missing me.
All right. Well, let us go first off. We did do a poll on the message board asking what Hell in a Cell match goes on last. And this is our Law message board, so I never take these results as people necessarily being serious, because the winner here with 48.5% was Roman Reigns and Rusev. I don't even know why I put this in there. Second being Rollins and Owens, and only 18% saying Sasha and Charlotte. So you can usually take the opposite results.
Yeah.
Let us start here with Carl from London. I think it's great that Sasha and Charlotte might have a chance of being the main event for this pay-per-view. That just shows how far this women's revolution has come in just over a year. They will certainly be hindered, though, if they do indeed go on last, with there being 2 other cell matches booked on this show. I fear for them that by the time the audience has sat through the whole show, including 2 other cell matches, the crowd is going to be exhausted. Maybe it's best for the women to go on earlier. Also, that Owens and Rollins is going to be a very tall order for them to follow. Question about the women's division. I'm interested to know who you and your guest rank number 1 as being the best overall on the women's roster at the moment. Charlotte, Sasha, Bayley, or Becky? Well, we know your answer is not Bayley.
No. I'm going to say Charlotte. I'm really digging her heel character, and she's really strong that way. And she's entertaining. She's getting a lot better as she's coming along.
I'd say the same of those 4 at the moment, and I think her promos have improved dramatically as well. I think that she's someone as well that I think is still overcoming that the scripted promos, but I think she's finding her voice quicker than others have.
Okay, so we go to Jose from New York. To quote one of my favorite wrestlers, Bret Hart, Review-A Raw is the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be show out today. You guys do an amazing job. I always look forward to listening to Review-A Raw. Keep up the good work. John Pollock and Wei Ting. Only thing I want to add is that even though the arm wrestling challenge was what the fans kept chanting, boring, boring, that's not going to... Am I screwing this up?
No, it's just awfully written.
Okay, so that's not going to change the fact that Dana Brooke is one of the hottest WWE female wrestlers today, next to Becky Lynch, periods and commas excluded.
Thanks a lot, Jose. I'm glad you enjoy the show.
It's fantastic.
Mark from Vaughan. His question is, did tonight do anything to change your opinion on the reaction Goldberg will get in Toronto? Do you think it's due to the location in Brock? Well, we definitely went over that in depth. Are you going to Survivor Series, Dave, or TakeOver or anything?
I'm doing TakeOver, and I'm going to be at Survivor Strikes as well.
Oh, okay. Well, there you have it. Friday night, a chance to not only for our contest, if you missed it on Sunday night, we're starting a contest this week on the Law where you if you win at Title Bout Trivia, you'll get tickets to Survivor Strikes, dinner with Jim Ross on Saturday before TakeOver, as well as tickets to his ringside event on the Sunday before Survivor Series. So an extra bonus is getting to meet Bartender Dave at Survivor Strikes.
I don't know what kind of a bonus that is, but...
That's a big bonus for a lot of these listeners.
My turn, sorry. Jesse from the 6. Is Brock supposed to be a face or a heel? I assumed he would have received a wholly positive reception in Minneapolis, but Heyman was egging on the crowd in classic heel fashion. Does it matter? The writers of TJP's dialogue must be stopped. Hit the reset button. Ugh. I hope Kenny Omega is watching how Carl Anderson is being treated. 3 good brothers out of 10. Take care. P.S. Happy birthday, Drake. 666. I'm supposed to do that, right? That's what Braden does? Anyway.
Yeah, that's a copyright, though.
Love you, Braden.
Bo from Toronto. One question for you. A few weeks ago, when Mick announced Sasha and Charlotte would step into the Hell in a Cell, he said they deserved it and sold it on the fact it was an evolution in how women in the WWE are viewed. Why did he spend 10 minutes tonight telling them that they are not ready for what's going to happen to them in the cell? Why would he have been so happy 2 weeks ago to reward them with a cell match and then spend 10 minutes this week trying to tell them their career would be cut short? No, that was a great point that you brought up earlier about the disconnect between the two. And I didn't even put those two together, but you're right. It was a big departure. And I think that's sometimes it's just they write for that week. And then here we are 2-3 weeks later and it's okay. Well, we got to get some heat on this match. Mick Foley cuts a passionate promo about Hell in a Cell, not even remembering what our direction for Mick Foley and this match was a few weeks ago that this same team put together. That's what this felt like.
Yeah. It's true. We got Tim Orton from Hull. This is why I believe Sasha and Charlotte will be the final match of the night this Sunday. Any real fan knows that wrestling is a spontaneous overflow of powerful emotion, and there can be no area of human experience in wrestling that has generated a wider range of these powerful feelings than Hell in a Cell.
Is this a press release?
I know, right? Hope and fear, exhilaration and humiliation, and innate, that's a good one. Innate hatred for the opponent. The Hell in a Cell matches this Sunday will induce those seminal moments of the modern era of WWE in which the well-versed athletes will plunge into inhumane conditions, reacting to their surroundings in poetic irony, something only the women can deliver.
Now, I don't know if that's him being extremely deep in his assessment that the women are just too scripted with some of their speeches. But that just read like a WWE promo.
Tim, you're my new favorite. I love it.
So maybe we're giving him some extra points there.
All right.
Matt from London, Ontario. Raw was a complete waste of time tonight. I didn't like the story of the night with Jericho trying to find the list. This might sound controversial, but I feel that Jericho's overshadowing Owens and it's ruining his title reign. P.S. Did you notice the Lesnar fears Wei Ting sign in the crowd? Yes, it was there front and center during that main event. Brock Lesnar fears Wei Ting, who had nothing to do with the crowd's reaction tonight.
I have to PVR get my PVR going and get a screenshot of that. That's fantastic. We got Nick from Lebanon, Ohio. I'm usually optimistic every Monday and either enjoy or tolerate Raw, but this might be the worst episode I've ever seen. The overly scripted women's segment was cringe cringeworthy. And after last week's excellent Goldberg return, I can't even figure out what they are trying to do with Heyman-Lesnar segment tonight. I only know of 3 matches for Hell in a Cell, and I don't care for any of them.
Wow. Man.
Ouch.
There are solid opinions here from the message board.
Yeah.
Brian from Minnesota, who was at the show on Monday.
All right.
The crowd seemed pretty into the show. Big reaction and skull chants for Curtis Axel. Always a huge reception for Brock here. Always a huge reception for Brock here.
You guys didn't see this coming at all.
Dueling Suplex City and Goldberg chants. Love the post-main event brawl between Seth and Kevin. While Raw typically bores me on TV, live wrestling is always fun.
Mm-hmm. We got Nicholas from Melbourne, Australia. I enjoyed the opening segment quite a bit. Chris Jericho keeps getting better and better every week. What the hell are they doing with Gallows and Anderson? The women's contract signing was simply amazing. Brian Kendrick got my sympathy vote with that promo. Did I miss something with that Lesnar segment? What the hell was that? That apron powerbomb was awesome. Pretty meh episode of Raw. 6 out of 10.
Larry from East LA, John and Blank. Monday's Raw just about dragged as much as any Raw this year. There were some moments with Enzo and Cass being somewhat entertaining, but when you really stop and realize that the emphasis of the show revolves around a notebook, it is hard to justify watching Monday's 3-hour product. I'm not going to harp on how much better SmackDown Live is, but first reaction from the brand extension was how stacked Raw was, and now SmackDown is noticeably better. That Heyman-Lesnar segment epitomizes Raw creatively. Question for John and Blank. Who's one star from NXT that could be plugged into the Raw roster and possibly salvage the stale product?
Immediately, I'd say Samoa Joe. Over time, I'd say Bobby Roode.
There's a number of guys. I would throw Nakamura in that list, who I think would be a breath of fresh air to either roster at this point. Mm-hmm. But as we've seen, I mean, just someone that you see plain as day as being able to come in and make a big difference. There's still a lot you have to overcome on the main roster where it's not always, I mean, look at a Sami Zayn, who had definitely, to me, he had done everything he could in NXT, and it's been hardly this flawless transition to the main roster for him and where he finds himself.
Yeah, it's true. I think Nakamura would do really well as well. And like watching his older stuff on the Fight Network last week, it was just amazing.
Last one is yours.
Oh, sorry about that. Paul from New Jersey. 2 questions. Apparently, people found the Mick Foley, Sasha Charlotte segment sexist in the sense they felt it was the man talking down to the 2 women about the match they are about to enter into. What are your thoughts on this? I feel it is a bit of a stretch, but maybe I'm wrong. And 2, is there the slightest chance Charlotte blades at Hell in the Cell in tribute to her father? I don't think it was sexist at all. I think he's just talking out of when you think of Hell in a Cell, you think of The Undertaker and Mick Foley for doing the craziest stuff and getting hurt the most. So I think he's got a leg to stand on to say that kind of stuff. And I don't think Charlotte's going to blade. I don't think either of the women are going to blade.
No, I don't expect blood from the women's match. And, I mean, if you recall, I believe it was 2 years ago, Foley did a very similar segment right before Ambrose and Rollins had their Hell in a Cell match, too. I didn't really read it as any kind of a gender divide in that particular promo from Foley at all. So there you go. That is all the feedback from the Law message board. And before we get out of here, we've got our contest, okay?
All right.
It is our Bartender Dave inspired contest. So what we're giving out, we have a pair of VIP tickets to give out to the Talk is Jericho live taping that's happening on Sunday, November the 20th at the John Bassett Theater in downtown Toronto. With these VIP tickets, you get a seat for the podcast, a meet and greet with Jericho and Styles. You get to be part of the fan Q&A. You get a photo op and 1 item signed by Jericho and Styles. So what we are going to do is you are going to have to post on the Law message board where this episode of Review-A-Raw is posted. And what we are going to ask you is, if you were opening up a bar, if you and Bartender Dave were going into business and opening up a bar, and you had to come up with wrestling-themed drinks, we want to know what you would name them.
I like this.
Such as what would be a good one? Whiskey Power of Pain.
Oh, nice.
I'm looking for puns.
Yeah.
I'm flat out looking for puns on existing alcoholic drinks, but with a wrestling twist to it.
Yeah.
And you will have this week to post them. You have to go to lawradio.proboards.com, and then we will announce the winner next week. And we're going to be giving out more tickets as well. If they're really good, maybe you'll get a bonus prize as well. So there you have it. Your wrestling-themed alcoholic drinks. And I might have to consult Dave for the winners or the best ones, because he is an expert in the field.
Hey, I'm here for you right whenever you need me. I just wanted to say thank you very much, John, for the opportunity, and I've been a fan of yours for quite some time. And even though I'm sitting here wearing my I'm a waiting guy shirt, the John Pollock guy shirts were sold out.
Oh, that's because they didn't get printed, actually. I expect most out there to be waiting guys. But Dave, thanks so much for doing this tonight. I'd wanted to do a show with you for a while.
Oh, I appreciate the opportunity. It's just been a heck of a good time. And
when do you anticipate you're going to be back in Law Land? Because I understand that you are like a supply teacher that's in great demand over the next little while.
That's right. I am actually doing What's Next with Braden this Thursday. So that we've got that coming up, which will be a lot of fun because, Jason's out on vacation. No, he's doing shows, right?
Yes, he is off. He's traveling the province of Ontario over the next little while. So he's going to be absent from What's Next for a number of weeks. So I'm sure you will hear lots of Bartender Dave, who is always ready for the challenge of tackling NXT with Braden.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I really like it. And I want to thank Jason Agnew again for introducing me to you guys. It's been a lot of fun, and I really appreciate it. And you can follow me at Bartender Dave 74, and you can come see me at Bryden's at 2455 Bloor Street West in Etobicoke at Bloor and Jane, and at Bryden's on Bloor if you want to follow us on Twitter.
And I'm not going to jump on this because I know Braden. Mm-hmm. He wants the exclusive of how Bartender Dave ended up back at Bryden's. This was like James Storm leaving TNA for a brief detour at NXT, but then coming back home. Yeah, so maybe this Thursday you can give Braden the exclusive story.
Yeah, that other bar hates me.
Oh boy! So there was heat at the end of it.
Oh God, yes.
Well, that is going to wrap it up for us. I will be back on Wednesday with Review-A-Smackdown with another guest co-host, as we will go over whatever they do on Tuesday night. And then, as Dave mentioned, he'll be back with Braden on Thursday for What's Next. And all our regular shows will be up this week. The MMA Report, Bauer and Pollock, and The Law. Midnight Eastern will be up after Hell in a Cell. We've got our contest to have dinner with Jim Ross and tickets to his show. We'll be doing that on Sunday as well with Dave Meltzer, part 2 of our Eric Bischoff interview. And all of that can be found at liveaudiowrestling.com, and give us your wrestling-themed drinks at lawradio.proboards.com in the item where Review-A Raw is posted, and we will pick the winner over the next week. So that is it for us, and we will chat with you later this week.
No, please, no. Oh, my God. No! That's a power bomb to the apron! That has cost superstars weeks of their career. And it only leaves Rollins 6 nights to get back in the ring and inside Hell in a Cell.